shadow projection, and how do we stop it? That's an interesting and big topic. The brighter the light, the starker the shadow. I'm Hawk from Helpful Hawk Healing. Down in the description below, you'll find a link to a PDF that'll help you understand more about this thing we call the mind. For now, let's talk about shadow projection and what we can do about it. When we're feeling superior to others, we're disguising the feeling that we're a failure, that we're not enough, that we're not good enough for it, that we failed in some way. So we have to prove that we're better than other people in order to disguise that. The superiority complex. There are a lot of people that have them. I used to. I know where my superiorities are, and I know where my inferiorities are. And I don't consider them superiorities or inferiorities. From my perspective, I have these abilities, talents, skills, and proficiencies, and I don't have these. And everybody has a varying amount of different skills, talents, abilities, and proficiencies. Some people are better at building houses, some people are better at building cars. Some people are better at painting pictures, and some people are better at painting walls. And just because you're good at one doesn't mean you're good at the other. I can build houses all day long. That doesn't mean that I can build skyscrapers. It's a totally different set of engineering. It's a totally different set of skills involved. Even though the general concept of raising from the ground up is similar, we all have our different specialities. That doesn't give us the right to look down or overlord it over others. When we're arrogant, that's covering over deep-seated pain that is causing an anger, a rage. And I used to be severely arrogant. I mean, I wore it as a badge. People would say, "You're an a-hole," and I'd say, "Yeah, well, I'm proud of that, making me arrogant. And that is Mr. to you." But the fact of the matter was, underneath that was a rage, a pain, a deep-seated anger. And that came from stuff from pre-birth, that came from stuff from growing up. You know, I was always the scapegoat, or, black sheep of the family. I would tell the truth, but since there's no way to prove some of these philosophical ideas or prove that someone is lying about something, well, hey, you're the black sheep. But one thing my family knows, if they need me, all they need to do is call. And if I can, I will. Our defensiveness covers up a feeling of weakness and unworthiness. If you have to defend who you are to someone, and it's not a court of law, then there's a feeling of unworthiness there. There's a feeling of weakness. The best thing you can do when someone starts attacking you or your character is walk away. And in today's world, people say, "Well, they're disrespecting me, man." Okay. They're showing their disrespect for themselves by doing it. I give the respect I expect to receive. And if I don't receive it, I give more. If I keep receiving disrespect, I may cut off contact. But I certainly don't sit there and work to disrespect the other person. When I do, which is not often anymore, thank you, but when I do, I keep it short, simple, sweet, to the point. Here, silver platter, your liver, enjoy. And then I turn around and I walk away. And I'm really not connected or attached to what people think of me anymore, which is strange, because I used to. I lived by my reputation. But now, what you think of me is your business and none of mine. How you perceive me is your responsibility and none of mine. And there's nothing I can do to change that anyway. There's nothing I can say. You can see my actions. So I really work when I feel that I need to defend myself. Unless it's physically defending myself, I really look to see within me, where am I feeling unworthy? Where am I feeling that I'm not enough? How is this person over here acting this way, causing me to get defensive? Our blame disguises a shame and a feeling of fault, and usually our own fault. And it is definitely a shame on our part. And remember, everything in the shadow is some part of ourselves that we don't want to admit to. That whether it be we don't want to admit that we're a bright shining star or admit that we have a demon. Whatever. When we're getting to this point of blame, we're feeling shame hidden in ourselves. Maybe even having to do with the particular situation where we're blaming. And that blame is often misguided. You're blaming the person outside of you for what's going on inside of you, when in fact you are in control of what's going on inside of you. So you're allowing that person to hold you hostage emotionally, and you're holding them emotionally hostage, and you're allowing them to have your control. Think about that. When you blame someone for causing you harm, and they haven't physically done so, and there's no reason outside of you to concern yourself with it, you're allowing them to take your hostage. You're allowing them to take control of your emotions. Is that healthy? Is it even safe? Idealizing others means our weak, defenseless inner child needs defending in some way. So when I look there and I see Alex Lifeson playing guitar and I've idealized him, where's my inner child not able to play the guitar that way? Well, of course I can't play that way. He's Alex Lifeson and I'm me. I'm going to play my way. Even if I'm playing his song or he's playing my song. We'll play our songs differently. Where does my inner child need defending in that moment? Does my inner child even need defending in that moment? It's the question. But when we're idealizing someone else, how is it that we need to be defended? What is it we need to be defended from? What can we do in the moment to say, there's nothing here to defend from? If I'm not being physically attacked, and I'm not in a court of law, there's no reason for defense, oral or physical. Our prejudices disguise inferiority and a host of other things where we feel that we're not enough, but especially our inferiority. You see that guy over there and he's an incredible basketball player, but you don't like him because of the color of his skin. You see that guy over there and he's an amazing guitar player, but you don't like him because of the color of his skin. You see that guy over there and he's an amazing martial artist, but you don't like him because of the color of his skin. But it's because you don't feel enough in those areas or in all areas. So you blame them, they. Well, you know them. Well, they're all like that. Prejudice is a hard one. I grew up with it, and I never understood it. I really never did. And I've seen it from all different kinds of angles. I've seen it from myself. And there's this cultural, societal thing that tries to keep us at each other's throats for the colors of our skin or slight differences or, well, that's not white enough or that's not black enough or that's not Mexican enough or whatever, Well, you know what? Is it human enough? Because I see one race on this planet, humans, and we're losing it because we're allowing the powers that be behind the powers we see to manipulate us and keep us at each other's throats over music and clothes and culture and these different things. And to be truthful with you, when you look at the actual reported statistics and facts of what's going on, what's constantly held up in the never-ending worry stories called the news isn't true. And I have found more in common with people that have different color skin tone to me than I have with people of my own skin tone. I have found more common experience with others from other countries even than with people that I grew up with. So prejudice, even this real men, blah blah blah, they get insulted because you hit like a girl. Well, you know what? I used to fight, and I fought with some girls, and man, I'll tell you what, they'll teach you where your lunch is. They have no mercy. So if a guy says you're fighting like a girl, thank you. That means I have no mercy. I take it as a compliment. Jealousy, it is a disguise for our own sexual inadequacy and our possibly shoved down tendency to stray from our relationship. It's a form of selfishness. And we get jealous. I've noticed that the most hyper jealous people are always cheating on their significant other. Always. An extremely jealous person is constantly thinking of straying or is straying, and they don't want the other person to do it. So they're, yeah, I saw how you looked at him. I saw how you talked to her. All that stuff, you know. I've done it a few times. And I sat back and I said, what is this? What is this? Where is it coming from? And then when that person I was with did cheat on me, I was like, oh. And I have cheated too. You name a shadow aspect, and it's possible that I've done it in one form or another. We all have. It's just the way it is. We've had those thoughts. And those thoughts aren't wrong or bad. It's just part of human nature. Every strand of human DNA contains the potential for any and every human action that is possible. Now, our paranoia is an overwhelming anxiety. And there may be actually people out there to get you. It could be that you smoke the wrong kind of pot. It could be that you're drunk and you should be paying attention to the fact that you shouldn't be driving. But most likely, it's a deep-seated anxiety. You're paranoid because possibly when you were younger, every single action you took was denigrated, was just constantly some kind of assault on you. So now you've got anxiety. Where's the attack coming from? And I get it. I used to be there. It wasn't easy. You know, I had a mother that had a hair trigger switch, and my father, he would hold off. He would deliberately form an anxietous anticipation within me. It was pretty harsh. So thank you for subscribing so we can continue to learn together. It helps the algorithm, and it helps get this message out to more people, that it's not that difficult to heal. But life will get more difficult if you don't. Look at what you're doing and realize that your projection is never neutral. It's never coming from a neutral place. If you're projecting onto others, it's never coming from a neutral place. There is no way you are sitting in comfortable neutrality if you're projecting. It's just that simple. No matter what it is that you're projecting, it's coming from a dark place or a light place where you don't feel enough, where you don't feel protected, where you don't feel safe. And remember that what we see as faults in others masks what we don't see in ourselves, or what we don't want to see in ourselves. It's incredible how it can work. So instead of harming them, let's look at ourselves and what the blame game says about us. If I see something in you that I truly think is a bad thing, I look at me and I say, where is this in me? And how come I can not step away from this situation? What is it about me that's keeping me stuck looking at the situation and saying, that person's inner child needs a timeout? Well, maybe my inner child needs a timeout too. Maybe we could take a timeout and talk together and help our inner children out. One thing we can do is connect with and contact our inner feelings in the moment. And this can be hard when we're in a public space, when we're at work, in the office, or whatever. But one thing we can do is say, okay, hold on. Let's hold on to this. We'll set it to the side. When we get home, bring it back up so we can look at it again. And we'll look at it together. Thank you, inner child, for letting me know there's something wrong. Or thank you, inner being, for letting me know there's something wrong. Let's look at this when we get home. For now, let's move out of this situation as much as possible. Let the situation unfold and get finished. And now we're going to leave. Then we can deal with it later. One thing that I have learned is that if we feel the thing we don't want to feel until it no longer needs to be felt, we can let it go. And no, it's not the easiest thing to do. It does take a brave person. You know, people say, well, it sounds to me like you go where angels fear to tread. There is no place angels fear to tread. And angels are energetic beings, so they don't tread anyway, but there's no place they're afraid to go. So then why should I be? If they're here with me, why should I be afraid? Why should I be afraid to walk into those feelings? Maybe I don't like them, maybe I don't want to feel them, but once I get through feeling them to their utmost and they dissipate, I no longer have to feel them. Or at least not about that situation. Now these feelings that we're projecting, they may be valid. That person may be a serious threat. But what does it say about us? Even though they're a threat, they're pulling us out of our comfort zone. They're pulling us out of our center. What does it say about us that they can pull us out of our center? Now that's not saying that there's situations that happen where we don't have to get expansive and blow up and meet a person where they are and then de-escalate. And that's an art. That is an art. And it's not always easy to do. But you have to learn to de-escalate. One way you can do it is to start strong and finish stronger. Instead of starting strong and finish stronger, start strong and finish stronger. Hey, what is going on here, man? Bring them back down a little bit. Turn the volume down. They say that a soft answer turneth away wrath. Well, I'll tell you this. I found out that that's not so much to be had in our modern day society. Oftentimes a soft answer is seen as weakness and people will pounce on you harder. And the softer you answer, the harder they pounce. To the point where I've actually had to physically defend myself. Because I could not walk away. There was no place to walk to. So I had to walk through. Well, one or the other of us found out whether I could walk through or not. And usually I did. Usually I walked right through. It's like, okay, you don't want to resolve this peacefully? The bump, bump. I'm still walking away. Not many people will take the time to develop the awareness to communicate with themselves in the way that I'm teaching. It does take time. Meditation helps. That helps you become so in tune with the observer part of you that you can see things happening within you. And that really is an important skill and ability to foster. And it does take a little bit of time to learn. Never, ever give them your power. If they can pull you out of your center And yes, sometimes there are valid reasons why you have to explode. Go ahead. But bring it down. Never let them pull you out of your center. Thank you for liking. I appreciate it very much. I used to say that I really liked a good deep depression. But the truth is, it was just that I felt comfortable there. I felt aware there. I could write great poetry from there. I could write great lyrics, create great artwork. But that doesn't mean it was a good thing. But I was in love with the idea of the wounded artist, the wounded hero, the struggling artist, you know. And this is the way you have to struggle for your art. Well, in a way, you do. However, it's so much more comfortable now to wake up and go, oh, thank you. It's so much more comfortable. Until we make peace with our unwanted feelings, they will persist. As long as we resist them, they're going to be there. Oh, I don't want to feel this anymore. I don't want to feel this anymore. Well, okay. The mind now has to think about what it doesn't want to do, which is to feel this anymore. So if you say, I accept this feeling, I bless this feeling, it has a right to exist. Oftentimes it'll go, okay, well, thanks for feeling me. I'll see you later. Our feelings do have a right to exist. It's that simple. And they're there for a reason. Emotions are there for a reason. By telling our feelings, I see you, you belong to me, they feel recognized. They don't necessarily feel exalted, but they feel appreciated. When you appreciate the circumstance that brought you there, and when you're grateful for the circumstance that brought you there and brought you through the lesson, not to the lesson, but through the lesson, now you can have compassion that you can give to others freely, and respect you can give freely to others. It's not a problem to be able to do this. In fact, it's one of the most authentic things you can do. Feelings will return, and as we accept them, they'll begin to feel less unwanted, and they'll begin to find ways to be more peaceful about how they're coming up and how they're connecting and how they're communicating with us. From our non-conscious to our subconscious to our conscious, we'll begin to bridge in a way that we weren't expecting. You'll be surprised how, if you accept that bit of hate you have for your mother or your father or your grandmother who treated you really bad, and allow it to be there and say you are valid, and instead of reveling in it, allow it to come up and allow it to be felt and allow it to express itself in some positive way, then it begins to dissipate. And I'll tell you, some of my most negative feelings were teddy bears. As far as, this feeling, now I feel comfortable. I'm stuck in my hate for that person. Oh, this feels so comfortable. I recognize this. Now then, I don't hate that person. I see how broken they were because of how broken I was. And the main thing is to realize that inside of every feeling, there's a story of, I am this way because, which goes back to the reason of it, which lets us know where it came from. And not everything is going to have a clear beginning. Some trauma that happened over time may have an initial point that we can get to and pull that root out, and the rest of it will begin to dissipate. But some trauma that happened over time will just be a lot of small instances that built up. And those small instances that built up and up and up and up and up will take a while to dissipate. My shadow work integration method and my abuse recovery method are basically the same exact thing. They're both here on YouTube. They will help you. I've used them. It's a combination of methods that I've learned and used over the years. And I'm working on an expanded program now. But they're here for free. Use them. Let those feelings be felt. Let them go. Let your trauma go. Thank you for healing. Because it's so important, especially in this day and age, with everything that is going on. And there are a lot of things going on in the world. And how are you prepared to deal with it? Them, they, or they can't touch me. Our feelings often come from our childhood. Not everything does. But a lot of things that happen in adulthood that cause a triggering situation happen in childhood. And it's okay to have these things happen. It's a human experience. They're all valid. No one likes to be raped, but it's still a valid human experience. It's not fun, but why is it this girl can get raped by 20 guys and say, you can't take my power away, and this girl can get touched by someone wrong and it ruins her for the rest of her life? It's a matter of decision. And all of these experiences are valid. And when we're recycling our emotions over and over again, we're reinforcing what happened in the past. Especially if we're reliving, well, they did that to me, 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 well, they did that to me. It's not fun. I was raped when I was 4. My mind was so unprepared for what happened that it closed it off. And I was in my 40s before the shell began to crack. I was 50 before it actually opened to the point where that period of time was no longer black. And I was like, after all this time, am I sure this isn't a game of my mind? But I have to accept that even if it is a game of my mind, the feelings were valid. The feelings were there. And I went back and I revisited it a few times just to see. And yeah, that experience happened. And that person was a broken person. And they weren't even of adult age. They were barely adolescent. So, making peace with our fear and our anger is a way to let go of the fear. To let go of projecting. Because anytime we're projecting onto others, we're giving them our power. If they can affect us to the point where we project onto them, now they have our power. And they know it. Especially severely narcissistic and sociopathic people. And they look for those kind of things. And they will deliberately do little things to trigger. I'm not saying walk around with walls. Walk around with boundaries. Making peace with fear, anger, and aggression is the only way to true freedom. Making peace with it. Knowing that the tendency and the potentiality exists within us. That is the only way to true freedom. I love myself. I am enough. I am free. Because I forgive. And forgiveness is not saying what they did was okay. Forgiveness is saying, I'm no longer drinking poison and expecting you to die. I'm no longer carrying around the weight of this. It's your karma. You carry it. Given time and given conscious awareness, our psyche will remember what it needs to do. And like I said earlier, why do we need to defend ourselves at all? What are we defending ourselves from? Who are we defending ourselves from? If we are not being physically attacked, if nothing's being thrown at us, nothing's being shot at us, nobody's throwing blows or kicks at us, it's just words. And yes, as children, words can hurt. But if all they're doing is throwing words, our reaction fuels them. And we can let it go. We can take our power back by saying, no, I'm not going to let you get under my skin. No, I'm not going to let you take my center away. No, I'm not giving you my power. So, how do we stop projecting? Well, the first thing we have to do is notice that we are projecting. And after we've noticed that we are projecting, look at the reasons why. Where do we feel we're not enough? For now, my abuse recovery method, my shadow work integration method. Try them out. I know they work. And thank you for healing. Thank you for being here. Thank you for commenting to let me know what more you want to learn about.